Hello everyone, welcome back. So today I want to talk about The Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris. This was a reread for me. I first read this when I was about 15, so that has been 17 years ago. It was nice to return to it. It probably really doesn't need an explanation or a review or anything like that from me. It's, an extremely successful novel, a very, very successful film. There were several of the Hannibal Lecter books. Hannibal Rising. He was in Red Dragon. I've read all of them. I didn't make it through Hannibal Rising, to be honest. I read half of it, and it just didn't. This was a long time ago. This was after I first read Silence of the Lambs. Um, it just didn't work for me. But that's a different book and a different subject. So I wanted to talk about the things that really stuck out to me this time around after this 17-year hiatus, or whatever you want to call it, gap between my first reading and the second reading. And so the basic plot, of course, is that there's an FBI trainee named Clarice Starling. She wants to work for behavioral sciences in the FBI, which the behavioral sciences unit, they study serial killers and that sort of thing, and use their findings to track down serial killers, amongst other people, criminals. And the head of the behavioral sciences unit is Jack Crawford. And at the moment, this is in the late 80s, so Jack Crawford is hunting a serial killer called Buffalo Bill. I have to be careful because sometimes I mix up Buffalo Bill with the parody character from Joe Dirt, Buffalo Bob. And I don't want to do that here. And Buffalo Bill is kidnapping and murdering young women, and he is taking their skin, okay? And Crawford doesn't really understand what's going on. He's seen this kind of thing before, but this has got him stumped because these young women are being taken from all over the country, not just in one spot. And so he decides that he's going to do something that has been done before in Red Dragon, which is he's going to send someone to speak to Dr. Hannibal Lecter, who is a cannibal. He's extremely intelligent. He's extremely dangerous. He's a trained psychiatrist. He's way smarter than Jack Crawford, and he's way smarter than most people. And he's also a violent psychopath who ate his victims. And in Red Dragon, I don't remember the sequence exactly because it's been a long, long time since I read Red Dragon or saw the movie. The man who figured out that Dr. Lecter was committing those murders, Will Graham, he went to the asylum and spoke to Hannibal Lecter to get some insight on I think he was called the Tooth Fairy, Francis Dollarhide. And so Jack Crawford wants to send Clarice Starling, this trainee who he knows wants to come over to work for him, to speak with Dr. Lecter about just ostensibly just to kind of pick his brain about why he is the way he is, but really to get some insight on Buffalo Bill, because Lecter follows all this. He knows all this. He's studied all this. It's he is a violent psychopath, murderer. So from there, Lecter and Starling start these series of conversations. Starling and Jack Crawford are chasing Buffalo Bill, and they're trying to find these leads. In the middle of this, Buffalo Bill kidnaps Catherine Martin, who is the daughter of a senator, and then it becomes extremely important. It's always that way. Nobodies go missing, and people are bothered by it, but until someone important's daughter gets kidnapped, it's not, then it becomes pressing news. Uh, I think that's bothersome to a lot of people, but that's an unfortunate reality of how society functions. So then it becomes a big deal because they have roughly about 10 days. So Buffalo Bill kidnaps these young women. He keeps them for about 10 days, and then he does what he does. So Crawford takes Starling with him to autopsy one of the bodies. They find a moth, a cocoon, in the girl's throat. And that sets off this whole search for what kind of bug this is. Is this, was this found in the other corpses, etc.? And so she's tracking down Buffalo Bill. Dr. Lecter is kind of using Starling for his own entertainment because he's incredibly bored. He's been in the same cell for 8 years, underground, staring at a wall. And so he is intrigued by Starling, though, and he starts to look into her mind, to ask her all these questions, and it becomes like a cathartic experience for Starling, because there are things that she has been living with her whole life that Lecter sees, so he sees into her so clearly, and he's able to really pinpoint what is going on with Starling from just a little bit of questioning. And so she starts to kind of look forward to seeing Lecter, and Lecter starts to kind of look forward to seeing Starling. If you've read Hannibal, you will know where that ends up. I know a lot of people don't like the end of Hannibal, and to be honest, I'm a bigger fan of the ending of the movie than the book, because I think the movie made more sense. I won't go into that. I don't want to spoil that for anybody who doesn't know. But gradually, Clarice Starling gets on the trail of Buffalo Bill and Crawford. They get on the trail of Buffalo Bill through Dr. Lecter's insights. And it comes out that Lecter has met Buffalo Bill. And so anyway, I don't want to ruin the whole ending or anything. If you've seen the movie, if you've read the book, you already know. I just wanted to talk for a moment really about something that I noticed while I was reading this. Well, there are certain things that jumped out to me in this rereading. For instance, what was not clear to me at 15, but is clear to me now, is how Harris took this beautiful young woman, Clarice Starling, very, very smart, very intelligent, but from a very poor background, and he put her into a what was at the time, may still be, I don't know, a men's world. Like it is a law enforcement, doctors, coroners, the FBI. This is very much a man's world that she is stepping into, and we get to see the different ways that these men treat her. For instance, Dr. Chilton, we get a very good look into Dr. Chilton, more so than in the film. He sees this beautiful young woman come into his facility to speak with Dr. Lecter, and he has no interest in her except sexually. So he talks down to her. He tries to get her to go out with him. He makes all these passes at her, and when it becomes clear that she's not going to go for it, that she thinks he's, a scumbag, he completely loses interest in the situation and says, well, we could have accomplished this through a phone call. I'll have the orderly take you down. Basically, get out of my sight. And we get more insight into Chilton, into how he is using Dr. Lecter to further his own career by writing papers on him, by bugging his conversation with Clarice, by trying to sort of ingratiate himself with Catherine Martin's mother, the senator, by getting, by using these tapes, by trying to use Lecter to, he is trying to steal from Clarice the insights that she has gained from Lecter by these tapes. And he is a very smarmy, ambitious kind of guy. He has, but Clarice sees through him, and there's a moment where she says, or she thinks, he kind of slips up when he's speaking to her, and she sees through him in an instant to this sad, lonely life that he is living, and he knows it. Um, we see how Jack Crawford treats her, which is very well actually, but he treats her as a boss treats an employee. So he will send her off to do things, and she won't get the recognition that she is kind of treating both Jack Crawford and Dr. Lecter as father figures. So her own father was killed in a robbery in West Virginia. He was a night watchman in one of these small towns, and she was sent away to live with her aunt and uncle on a farm in the upper Midwest. And we get more insight into that particular series of events than in the movie. In the movie, it's just lambs. In the book, she is sent to live with her aunt and uncle, and they run a knackering operation for old horses. You can figure out what that is on your own. I don't really want to talk about it. And she doesn't run off with a lamb. She runs off because of lambs being slaughtered, but she runs off with an old blind horse in a snowstorm, I believe, and she doesn't make it very far. But she's thinking of Dr. Lecter gradually more and more, not exactly as a father figure from her point of view, but in the book there is that kind of dynamic. And also with Jack Crawford, who is, at the moment, he is dealing with the terminal illness of his wife. So he has loads of pressure on his head, and he really, really needs to get this job done. So he's maybe not giving Starling the praise and congratulations that she sort of expects from him. And we also see, for a very short period of time, how Buffalo Bill and Starling interact. And Buffalo Bill is a much scarier character in this book than in the movie. I mean, he's very frightening in the movie, but in the book we get more of an insight into what is going on in his home, what his thought processes are, why he is doing this, how he is doing this, and his whole background. We don't, and I think this is what I wanted to talk about really, is that we don't get a lot of insight really. We don't get a look into their minds really, of either Hannibal Lecter or Buffalo Bill. And so that left me kind of, and maybe this is just my own desire, that I've said this before, but I've read a great deal of psychology texts in my day. I made a serious study of psychology and sociology on my own, and maybe that's just an inner need for me to have a rundown of their mental states, of why they do what they do, and to have this firm grasp of why they are the way they are. But what I noticed, my arm's getting tired, what I noticed was that Hannibal Lecter's insanity never came through to me in this book. And what I mean by that is, he is a psychopath. He's extremely dangerous. He's homicidal. He is a cannibal. But I never felt like he was insane. He is a very rational individual. He is in complete control of his own mental faculties, of his own actions. He does everything that he does with purpose and with intent, and he is not. Now, I know you may be saying, well, he's a psychopath. Psychopathy is not insanity. And you may be saying, well, his rationalizing of the irrational act of cannibalism is insanity. And you may be right there. But what I'm saying is that Lecter does not seem driven by insane impulses. He doesn't hear voices. He he doesn't just lose it. He doesn't fly off the handle for no reason. He doesn't. He's in complete control of himself, is what I am trying to say, and that when he kills people and when he eats people, he is doing that from complete control. He is not doing this as like an insane zombie kind of thing. He's not just latching on to people and chewing on them or anything like that. He is fully thinking through his every move, uh, like a chess player, 10 moves ahead, 15 moves ahead. And so his insanity just didn't really come through to me in this book. And I just didn't see how someone who is doing everything rationally and in complete control could be considered insane, other than the fact that, cannibalism is an irrational act. It's a taboo act. It is a filthy act, and all of that is despicable, what Dr. Lecter does. But it didn't ever ring as insane to me. He's dangerous. He is basically, I was just thinking this before I sat down, but he is basically Dr. Moriarty from Sherlock Holmes, except he eats people. And yeah, so I was just wondering that. I was just wondering if anybody else has felt that way, that Dr. Lecter's insanity really doesn't come through in the book. And I have to be honest, I don't think it even will come through to me in the movies now, because I just, yeah, maybe it's just that I'm not looking at insanity right. But anyway, my point is, in this whole conversation, is that The Silence of the Lambs is a really good book, and it's worth reading. It's, if you like thrillers, if you like, I don't guess you could really categorize this as a murder mystery, because we know right off the bat who's doing what and why. But it's a really good book. It's a really well-written book. There's a lot of insights into these characters that are not present in the movie, and it's worth reading. That's what I wanted to say. It's worth reading. It's really good. And if you're into books like this, then you should definitely give it a try. Hannibal is also very good, except for the ending. Red Dragon is also very good. Hannibal Rising, I really need to return to that book and see if it works. It didn't work the first time I read it. So I'd like to return to that. I'd like to reread Red Dragon also. I don't know if I'll get to Hannibal or Hannibal Rising. Anyway, I've kept you long enough, and I want to thank you for sticking it out with me. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.